Emil, it's Emil Guillermo, Emil Amok to you here in my closet, speaking to you. I've gotten in the habit. I used to do these things every day, and then I got in the habit of maybe I'll just do it when Dan comes in on Friday and we talk about the news. And of course, we're going to do something on November 5th, Dan and I, at the public library. I'll tell you more about that later in the week. But today, before we get into the meat of what I want to talk to you about, Emil Amok, my show, 69, is live at the San Francisco Marsh on November 19th at 7:30 p.m. And I want you to know about it now as we get into October, so you can save the date and you can come. It's a 70-minute show. I'm the only one. It's just me. It's in San Francisco. And in honor of my birthday, which is actually in October, I'm going to ask you to, just buy a ticket to the show. Come see the show. If you haven't seen me in a while, if you knew me in a past life, as a television guy, as a radio guy, as a newspaper guy, as a guy writing for the ethnic media, as a guy in San Francisco, as a guy wherever, NPR, as a guy who sold you insurance, come see me. I'm at the Marsh. I do this show, Emil Amok 69, about the current state of life. 69, does that mean it's a sexual? Well, you can see the show upside down or right side up, but it's 69 for a reason. And I explain that in the show. SF Marsh, SF Marsh, November 19th, 7:30 p.m. Get your tickets. If you are watching me, go to themarsh.org/home. No, themarsh.org/shows, and then look for my name, Emil Guillermo, and then you'll find information how you can buy tickets. And it's a very intimate situation there at the Marsh. I think it's about 99. It's a 99 seater. I think they might be able to fit in 100 if the fire marshal's looking the other way. But it's a nice venue. I've developed this show there. I've also developed the show throughout my Canadian tour. So yeah, that's why I got the Canadian ice hockey replica jersey. I was in Winnipeg, Edmonton, Vancouver, and darn it, I'm starting to like the CFL a little bit. The NFL is it's all right, but it's kind of mediocre, right now. The Kansas City Chiefs, they're not playing that well. I mean, it's really mediocre right now. Meanwhile, the CFL is in their 16th week, and those guys are playing well. So check out the CFL. The Edmonton Elks and the Winnipeg Bay Bombers, those are the cool teams. And I happen to be in both cities, and it was great to kind of see what life is like there. But I'll tell you, the thing that is most impressive about Canada is they are still, surprisingly, despite all this happening in the world, strong men everywhere, Donald Trump, the anti-woke movement, Canada is remarkably inclusive and woke, and it's everything that the United States wishes it could be. Well, some members of the United States, some people in the United States say, heck with it, heck with this diversity. Did you hear Pete Hegseth today? I mean, Hegseth is just ridiculous, spending millions of dollars to bring all the generals in for essentially an anti-diversity pep talk, which was so funny because it led off with Donald Trump, who, here's the commander-in-chief. This sort of thing rarely happens, and here you have all the generals, and all the generals are there militaristically, right? They're at attention, essentially. And you had Donald Trump saying, hey, come on, loosen up, guys, have some fun, be yourself. Oh, yeah, have some fun, be yourself. Donald Trump trying to be normal and human as if he could. It was just funny. I was just watching that little clip. And it was like Donald Trump must have felt really awkward because maybe a touch of being human snuck into him when he realized all the racist and bigoted things he was saying over the last 24, 48 hours before we have the big Washington shutdown. I mean, that's the other thing. You have all these things happening right when the most important thing, the shutdown of the government, comes up, and you have everyone forgetting about the shutdown of the government, forgetting about how Donald Trump should be doing all he could to avert a shutdown, and instead he's having this wasteful meeting of the generals from all over the world in one room. It's going to cost millions of dollars. And has anyone pointed out that that's government waste, that kind of pep talk? And what was it for? So he can like reel off the greatest hits of all his accomplishments that aren't very accomplished? And so that he drills into their heads that he's the boss? That's really not necessary. But I guess it is for his ego. And then once Trump did his thing with his greatest hit speech about everything that he's done and how great he is and how he, brought peace to the world and should win the Nobel Peace Prize, then it was Hegseth's turn. He said, woke is dead. No more of these identity months, which, by the way, I benefited from that. When the Navy, or I went to a National Guard, the National Guard, the top unit in Washington, D.C., I went there and spoke to about 200 people at an Asian American Month gathering. It was one of the highlights of my speaking career. And I had them in the palm of my hands. They didn't know any of the stuff I was talking about. And they needed it. And I know that the top brass at the time appreciated my being there. Now all that out the window, right? I haven't been invited back. No more of that. Pete Hegseth today officially say, "Hey, woke is dead." We knew that's his one thing. That's his one note since he's been put in office without qualifications, without any kind of realistic experience that says, hey, he's qualified to lead. There was Pete Hegseth talking about the death of wokeness. We're not going to be woke anymore. And hey, he got down not just on minorities, he got down on fat generals. No more fat generals, no more bearded fat generals, no more dudes in dresses. He got down on the trans folks. He was just full on MAGA. And you're going to see a number of stories out there about how women who were qualified, they weren't given a free pass to come serve in combat. They were qualified. You're going to see a number of them speak out and say, what the hell is Pete Hegseth talking about? It's never been a free ride for women. The women who served in combat were qualified and were able to hold their own. There was never people who weren't supposed to be there who were there. Unlike Hegseth, who's not supposed to be there, but he's there. And it's just, I think, I saw one clip where Trump is saying, hey, you guys can relax. Just listen to me, have some fun. He said, you can leave if you want. Of course, you'll be losing your career. You'll be leaving your career behind. And that's why everyone was being nice to him, right? And it makes me wonder that after today, what kind of pushback he's going to get from women and all the top members, all the generals who sat on their hands. What are they going to say privately? Or what are they going to say publicly? Because what Hegseth is saying and what Trump said this morning, everything that is said in the second Trump term indicates how far back we are going, how far back in time. Oh, we're not going as far back as slavery. Okay, well, I guess that's good. But, even if you only go as far back as Jim Crow, that's pretty bad. And in, sexual and gender terms, if you go back just to 1990, you're going back to some of the worst instances of sexual harassment in military history. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, Pete Hegseth was just a kid, like literally in elementary school, when the worst things that were happening in the military in terms of sexual harassment were occurring. Look up Tailhook and look up, the things that were going on there and how that brought about reforms, necessary reforms, and how all the reforms going forward that we can say, oh, we've settled that. We solved that. We're good. Well, today we got the signal. Things are going backwards. This is, in some ways, it's just like when you heard that Roe v. Wade and the abortion issue going backwards. When you heard that affirmative action and civil rights were being shut down at Harvard, we're going backwards. When you heard all the other things, all the other issues that had to do with policy steps taken by the government, 65, 67, 68, I mean, everything. We're seeing this reversal. And I have to say this, I was really shocked and dismayed when I saw last night that video that Donald Trump put out. Donald Trump put out this video, a fake video, on his Truth Social account. It's Tuesday night, last night, and there's still time to avert a shutdown. And what did Donald Trump do? Was he saying, I'm going to meet with people, I'm going to get the Republicans and Democrats together and talk about this? No. He put out a video, a fake AI-generated video with fake voices coming out of the mouth of Democratic Senator Chuck Schumer, essentially spouting out Trump MAGA nonsense. Like, oh, no one votes for the Democrats. That's why the Democrats, we got to, give benefits to illegal immigrants, illegal aliens, so then they might vote for us. And then they'll come to their senses and they'll see there's no reason to vote for us. I mean, if Donald Trump were a comedian, that could be acceptable satire. If he were the South Park guys, where Donald Trump is ridiculed for having sex with Satan and giving Satan a child, a butt baby, well, yeah, satire, right? No big deal. But this is not comedy. This is not entertainment. This is America. This is our politics, and it affects real American lives. And instead of trying to deal and address healthcare, instead of trying to address rural hospitals closing down, all the real issues that people care about that are on the line with the government shutdown, layoffs versus full-blown, firings of federal workers. Instead of really trying to deal with that, we get this fake video from Donald Trump. He's not interested in any kind of negotiation in the last, in the final hours. He's only interested in the pain. And he's not feeling it. You are. You're feeling the pain. So I have to say that I feel like we have come up to a point in this second term now. I mean, there's always something new, right? The Comey thing the other day, going after your political opponents. I mean, really weaponizing the government. Now we come up with the shutdown of the government, and honestly, this plays into Trump's hands. The Democrats are kind of weak, but they're at least they're standing up, trying to do something. But the Republicans want this shutdown. And it's funny because even the PR of the White House says, oh, it's the Democrat shutdown. I mean, they put their spin on it. And they take the very same New York Times poll that says most people blame the Republicans. A third blame the Republicans, only 20% blame the Democrats. More blame both. But the point is, the White House put out this statement like within the last hour saying, oh, this is the Democrat shutdown. No, this is the Republican shutdown. The Republicans want it because they don't even like government in the first place. I've always said that. The Republicans always want the shutdown because it cedes all the power to the executive branch. This is what Donald Trump wants all along. And if you haven't put two and two together, that this is really the beginning of the end. This is really we're going down that autocratic path. With the government shut down, I think the Democrats are playing into his hands. They got to try to save it. I don't know how, but the Republicans aren't going to be big enough. I mean, Trump's putting out that fake video and everyone's laughing. Ha ha ha. Everyone's laughing except the millions who'll be cut off of Medicare. Everyone's laughing except all those people who used to go into those rural hospitals. Everyone's laughing except those people who will lose their jobs. It's not a matter of furlough. You know, there will be some people who will be deemed exceptional and they will be forced to work and they won't get paid till after if things get restored. And we have to hope that, yeah, things will be restored. That's the way it usually is, but that's when things are normal. But I don't think there's any reason to think that we are in normal times. I don't think this is normal. So I want to mark this occasion because it's almost like there's no going back. We're losing a little bit of our democracy every day. And we hope we can get it back. We can hope we can get back through the judicial process, through appeals. But we're on that slide. And going back up that hill, I'm not saying it's going to be impossible, but it's going to be very difficult unless people start coming to their senses. I'm talking about the negative diversity of last November, when just a handful of people, Black, Hispanics, people of color, young people, said, oh, what the hell? Let's vote for Donald Trump. Can't be bad. Can't be that bad. It can't be that bad. We're seeing it. We're seeing it now. So let's hope we can survive what happens. We take some of these shutdowns for granted because, you know, I think the longest one was about 35 days. Now, according to some reports, things like Social Security checks, that kind of thing still go out. There's still some people who will work. They won't be paid until after, but they will be paid because the presumption is things will work out. But like I said, I don't know if you can presume anything in this Trump second term. I just don't think you can make that assumption. So I was really upset hearing Hegseth talk today, upset hearing Trump talk, and very upset from last night from seeing that video. That video was just remarkably insensitive. To show Hakeem Jeffries in a Mexican hat, and then the AI generated image of Democrat leader Chuck Schumer saying these inanities that a MAGA type would say. It was put out by Donald Trump, racist and bigot, that he is. And there are still some of you who are voting or weren't ready to flip back. I mean, I know there have been stories about people who, oh, I voted for him and I regret it now. Oh, no, we need more than just one, right? We need more than just the anecdotal lead. We need a mass of people. If this is going to change it all, it's going to have to be like the Philippines, where a mass of people took to the streets. They called it people power, and we got it too good in America to have people power. So many people say, hey, not my job. Democracy, not my job. Hey, I don't want any part of this. Not my job. I'll mind my own business. Trump can do what he wants. Just leave me alone. There's a lot of people like that. That is what's sad about America now. It's gotten to that point, though, where no matter how unpopular Donald Trump is, there are people who say, as long as he doesn't screw around with me, I'm fine. And if you're rich or poor, it doesn't matter where you are on the scale. If you're poor, you're saying, hey, as long as he doesn't mess with me, I'm fine. If you're rich, you say, okay, he's coming after me. I can settle for 24 million like YouTube did, and everything's all right. This is crazy that it's happening in America. I can't believe it, right? I mean, you live through this period where you see the progress made. I mean, real progress. I mean, since when I was born, right? To see the Civil Rights Act in 64, the Voting Rights Act in 65, the Immigration Act in 65, to see all those things happen and pass. And now to see them erode and to see them like vanish before our eyes. And now, right? I mean, I'm only an American by virtue of the 14th Amendment, birthright citizenship, out through the birth canal, out into America, a citizen. My parents here legally, but not citizens. But now Donald Trump wants that. He wants that removed, birthright citizenship. We're on that downward slope. I mean, remember we said, well, we give him immunity. You know, what can happen? And people kept talking about, well, you know, they talk about that slope, that downhill slope. Well, we've been on that slope and we're going faster and faster. It's like skiing. We're snowballing. It's an avalanche. I get that feeling. I just get that feeling today. You know, bad enough that there's a shutdown. But when they get the generals together and Hegseth's telling his anti-woke stuff and Trump's doing his greatest hit speech, it's being orchestrated. And if we have a shutdown, who knows how long the shutdown will be? And who knows if we can reopen the government once there's a shutdown? Because who will have the power to get us back in gear? Republicans and Democrats will have to start talking. Who's going to listen to whom? Democrats will keep pushing as far as they can. Republicans will only listen to what Donald Trump wants and says. How soon will it be before the government reopens? That's something being concerned about, worth being concerned about, because we'll get a sense of what it's like when everything is so heavy weighted toward the executive branch. Supreme Court's on its side. The Congress is neutered. It's all the executive branch. We'll get a sense during the shutdown. That's the scary thing. Because how many people will stand up and say anything? How many people will know even what to do? How many people will just say, yeah, I'm just a citizen. That's their business. That happens over there in Washington. That doesn't happen where I am. I look at the TV and Washington is, dark and it's still sunny out where I am. And it's like a different world. People will talk their way out of doing things because they don't want to be involved. They don't want to be bothered with their democracy. So I just think it's important just to say these things so there's something that can be done. You could call your congressman. That would help. And if you like what's going on, then call your congressman and say, hey, right on, shut down the government. But what will that mean to inflation and the price of eggs and all that? Which is what you really care about, right? I just know that Trump thinks tariffs are the answer. You think, we'll put a tariff on that. We'll put a tariff on that. He doesn't realize that, when you okay tariffs, you're putting tariffs on yourself because consumers pay. Consumers pay those tariffs, not countries. We pay. Things will get worse. I'm sorry. He wanted to correct me. He said that he knows what tariffs are about. But the fact is, he doesn't know what tariffs are about. He thinks tariffs are tariffs on countries when they're really tariffs on companies, right? And the companies, they pass on the... I lost my sound. What happened to my sound? Okay. God, I thought I turned that off. Sorry, folks. All right, so see, all it takes is one phone call, one errant phone call. I want to talk about a few things before I leave you. Number one, I talked about Hegseth, all that woke stuff. God, that's really the thing about Canada. I was just up there. Man, they're not debilitatingly woke. They're woke. They're rightfully woke. They understand justice. They understand inclusion. And we don't. It's almost sad. It's sad that north of the border, they get it. South of the border, we don't. So let me talk about a couple other things. I talked about the Filipino Comedy Festival. Here's the thing. Joe Coy, Filipino American, he got paid to go to Riyadh to the Saudi Arabia Comedy Festival. The story that made people notice was that one comic had said something about slavery in Saudi Arabia, and the Saudis didn't like it, so they cut him $375,000, which, as I joked at the Filipino Comedy Festival at Bindlestiff in San Francisco, I said, oh, well, that's slightly less than what I'm making as a feature act. Yeah. The fact is, the main acts are making as much as $1.6 million. And amongst the stars are people like Joe Coy, Dave Chappelle, Bill Burr, Kevin Hart. I mean, they had some heavy hitters there at that comedy festival. But a number of comics, I guess most notably, Mark Maron came out against this whole thing because do we know what Saudi Arabia does to people who disagree with them? And you know that this is what Saudi Arabia does? It uses money to buy the silence of otherwise good people. It was kind of a shock. But as soon as you start seeing people compromise on things like going to Saudi Arabia, there's no telling what they'll compromise on, right? So, killers hire killers. Saudi Arabia will hire the best comedians. Killers will hire killers. And who's talking about Jamal Khashoggi, the Washington Post columnist? No one. Because you got the Ryder Cup, right, over the weekend. And, the Ryder Cup, they dealt with the Saudis. They gave in. They sold out. They said, yeah, live golf. Okay, let's go. Some people wanted to take the higher plane, the moral plane, but there is no moral plane. It's like, you're going to give us $10 million to play golf? Okay, sure. Why not? PJ? Bye. And so now live is a thing in America. The best golfers can play anywhere, and morals be damned. Morals used to have some kind of weight. You can say, well, we're going to boycott you. We're going to do this. You got to affect them money-wise. But when people start breaking that, unity, then the morals go out the window. Anyway, I was at the Filipino Comedy Festival, and it was fun at Bindlestiff in San Francisco. I've known Bindlestiff since the very beginning. They're in a newer space, great space. I hope to do more there. I haven't done more there because I didn't know the people there. I knew some of the older people, but now these newer people are there. That is a good space. Filipinos go there, and wow, it's easy to get freaked out by that. But you're not dealing with criminals on the street. You're dealing with homeless people. You're dealing with people who, they might be inebriated. Maybe they're on drugs. I don't know. But they're people who don't have a home. They're people who don't have jobs. They're people in need. And instead of being scared of them, we should try to help them. But how? Right now, Donald Trump's on this mission to say, we're going to send in the National Guard. What, to deal with these people? To deal with homelessness? These aren't criminals. But it's criminal what the government fails to do to help these people. So you get an eyeful of that when you're down there on 6th Street. It's sad. I don't know what the answer is, except the right has been trying to use this against cities like San Francisco, Oakland, Portland, New York, Washington, all the cities that have to deal with these issues that are related to mental health and economics and homelessness. And these people aren't criminals. They might have to rely on criminality sometimes because they're doing their best. And they have no place to turn. There's got to be a better way to deal with it than to just say, these cities are in trouble. We're going to send in the troops. Donald Trump named San Francisco specifically. He named Portland. He wants to go into Chicago. He wants to go into Memphis. It's incredible. Sending in the National Guard, militarizing the police force. It's just ridiculous because, first of all, you got the Posse Comitatus Act, which says you can't turn the military force against your own people. I mean, military missions are one thing, police actions are another. Never the twain shall meet, except when Donald Trump feels like, apparently. All right, one more thing. AAJA on Saturday. I went to the Asian American Journalists Association 40th anniversary for the San Francisco chapter. I was one of the first members. It was good to see old friends. You know, David Louis was there. Some Chronicle writers, Ed Iwata, Lisa Chung, aka LA Chung. A lot of people there. It was fun. Some people not there because of, I found out one friend has long COVID. Very tough. But it was hard to see how journalism has slid back from the days when we were there in the 80s, and it was like there was money to do things, money to hire. People were still excited about the investigative reporting effect of Watergate and what it could do to bolster our democracy. It was an exciting time. And now what do we have? We have 60 Minutes being bought off by the Trump administration. We have Trump buying up the media. YouTube just settled a $24 million on a suit that Trump filed against them because they banned him. I mean, he's on his retribution tour, Donald Trump. And it's costing the media, both the mainstream and the very democratic web internet media. Sad to see what's happening. And of course, we've talked about Belva Davis. Belva was the journalist who helped everyone. African-American woman died at age 92 last week. And she was active in NABJ, also AAJA, because she knew all of us were important. And it reminded me how briefly in the 90s, 2010s, we had a group called Unity, which were all the groups together, and how that failed. And that was really the first death of wokeness. But a sign in 2018 that you ain't seen nothing yet. And look what happened. 2018 was the first Trump administration, and now we're in the second. Look what happened. Or look what's happening. So it was nice to see old friends and be nostalgic, but more so our friendships and, you know, the relations that we had as reporters in San Francisco. More nostalgic about the state of journalism and how far or how much it's been rocked, how much has changed in the 40 years. Now, I was surprised to see there were even students interested in getting scholarships from AAJA to fund their careers. Now, this is true. I was reading an article in the LA Times. It was well written. I said, who's this reporter? I never heard of this person. She was a LA Times fellow. You know what that means? We don't have money for regular jobs, but we'll pay you out of a fellowship fund. And essentially, you're a glorified freelancer because that's the state of journalism today. It's sad. It's almost like instead of journalism, consider the priesthood. The Episcopal Church has women priests. But consider the priesthood because it's essentially a vow of poverty, especially with AI now. Okay, that's it for me. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll see if we're shut down. In the meantime, you know, you can say be kind to one another. I'm trying. trying to love my enemies. It's hard. See, I don't call them a-holes. I call them bass holes. That's nicer than an a-hole. All right, so we meditate a little loving kindness as we say goodbye. Don't forget, by the way, you can see me live November 19th at the Marsh. At the Marsh, 7:30 p.m. Check out the link. Tell your friends. If you can't go, pass the link on to a friend. And so, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Emil Guillermo here. Till next time. Mahal Kita.